Okay, so this week I decided to start working on these wheel openings, and I really didn't want to radius them completely. I wanted to keep the shape as much as possible, and we're real close. We're real close as far as I have to now probably just go out and get some new tires on this thing because these are worn, and I want to make sure we put new tires on there. There's no issues over here. I think we're just going to be able to make it. It's right to the body line right here where I tried to replicate the shape of the original 68 opening, and that's something I wanted to maintain, and I like the way it looks. So like I said, hopefully we'll have enough clearance. Usually what happens is this is a lock-to-lock situation where you're really in a parking lot. That's really the only time there's going to be an issue of it being even close. Right now I've got plenty of room under here right now, but as you turn the tire out, it gets close right in here. So I have a couple options to push this fender out a little bit more. It's already manipulated a little bit out on the sheet metal, but I think I can make some braces to keep this out and away from the tire enough that we don't have to cut up into the, as you can see, this line here, which would have been the radius, a complete radius. I really didn't want to do that on this car just for the look of it. So hopefully that'll work out, but I got to get new tires on it first before I can go any further. So we're going to leave this project here, and we're going to hop back onto the inside of the car and see what we can do about finishing up some of the fabrication that's got to go on in there. All right, so I kind of lied. I'm not in the interior of the car. I decided that since the tires and wheels are off the car, it'd be a good time to see about reinforcing this rim here and trying to get the fender out, trying to get the shape to stay out at least another 1/4 inch from where it was. That should give us hopefully enough clearance. So everything I do here will be temporarily tacked on until I actually get the tires on. But for now, what I've done is I've gone inside here and I've welded a tab. You can see there's one right here on the inside, and there's another one welded in this location on either side of the top side of this wheel hole. You can see where the radius was going to be. Anyway, then I have this adjuster here which has 2 heim joints on it, so when I spin it, it extends it and it pushes it out. That way I can gently push it out a little at a time and see if it's distorting anything, stretching anything, pulling material from an area I don't want to pull from until I get it out. I've managed to get it out about a 1/4 inch further than what it would be if it's relaxed. Now, in order to add reinforcement to the back side, normally you'd have just a 90-degree flange right here that would hold this whole thing rigid all the way around. That's how it comes stamped here. You can see I've cut it off to a head, just a 1/2 inch here to maximize my clearance over here. Anyway, can't do that at the top because this has to be as thin as possible. So what I've done is I've got some 045 and I bent it in, let's see if you can see this, bent it in this shape here, and I'm shrinking it and stretching it so that this taper, you see this tapered part over here, will fit just up underneath here. So it'll come to almost like a sharp point here, and as it goes around here, it's more and more relaxed, and it'll actually end up turning into a flat flange from here down and from here down where there's plenty of clearance. I don't have to worry about that. But this is going to be, not razor sharp, but it's going to be pointed from this tab and to this tab here. So this area here can be held firmly, with that little tented structure. And hopefully once that's all solid here, all the way down to the bottom and welded up, like I said, I'm just going to tack everything here temporarily till I get the tires back on to make sure that that's going to be what's going to work. But I've managed to get it out about a 1/4 inch further than it would be if it was relaxed, so that should help us out a little bit. Okay, so that seemed to work pretty good. I have the tapered rim from this point up, going across here, and then from where you can see it when you're standing on the ground, standing up when the car was on the ground, I put back a 1/2 inch rim over here so it has a more stock appearing look, where there's no issue of tire interference. So as soon as it gets up over here around the corner, it flattens out, has that little tent shape there to keep this rigid. The stops are out of there now, and it's holding its spread. In other words, this is Sits at about 20 off the frame rail, about 20 and a half. It's out 20 and 3/4 here, where the tire wants to steer out. It gives it a little bit more breathing room. Hopefully it's enough with the new tires. We'll see. Anyway, just wanted to show you the stop I was using. Basically, it's just a rod. I've got a little threaded rod welded in the bottom, excuse me, into the center of it. It's a 3/8, I think it's 049 wall. It could be a 65 wall, I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, so this is just a little fancy piece that it's a spoiler adjuster piece, which is milled with the threaded on both ends to accept reverse threads and then positive threads for this type of thing. But you know, the same thing can be accomplished with a nut welded on a piece of 3/8 tubing for something like this. But anyway, I just had these, so I used them. And I've got a Heim on the end, and you can see it kind of rotates in different directions. So if you had an odd angle that you had to weld the tab to, and then this welds to the frame rail up underneath there, and then I slowly use this to wind the fender out in 2 locations to keep it even. Watch for distortion and anything that would exaggerate the fender. So you can take that and you can kind of tune it right into the place you want it to go. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that. Okay, passenger side's done. Now I just got to wait for the tires. They're being mounted, but it held out the extra 1/4 inch that I wanted it to hold out. Just so that worked out pretty good. Anyways, a friend of mine basically told me about some spacers that you could fit up to the tops of these. They look like struts, but they're actually coil springs over a shock absorber. They're actually a coilover type shock. And there's a neoprene type spacer that you can put on the top. You just got to get the shock out and the spring and compress it, and then change out the top piece. That way it stacks it down lower where it bolts here. It's got longer bolts, and it pushes the whole mechanism down so that the car rides just about, well, they've got 3/4 inch spacers, and they've got 1.2 or 1.25 inch spacers. I think if I had to, the 3/4 would be plenty. I probably only need 3/8, but that would keep the rake in the car, and it would get it up a little higher, so the turnout on the wheels was definitely not a problem. So we do have some way to solve that if it's still an issue. Anyways, I probably didn't explain what I was doing on this inside and why I put that extra bolt up in this bottom member here, and this is what I was doing. It's still in the rough. I still have to make it decoratively pleasant because it's going to be seen. We talked about initially creating some stabilization here like a post car would have, and initially I was going to back engineer all the post stuff into this car, but then I found out that I got some post windows, you know, the ones that pop out in the Road Runners and the Coronets, and they just don't quite fit the profile at the bottom, and so we decided against that. But I still wanted to stiffen it up a little bit so that we join this lower section of the car and lock it into the roof. Up in the roof there's a captured nut that's usually used on the 68 Charger, 69, 70 for the shoulder belt, and it's an embedded nut, and it's part of the roof structure. So I've got a flange here. I had located it here, but that was too far forward. Anyways, I ended up moving it back, and again, I'm going to have to make something so it looks a little bit better, and it'll be painted out. But this is a piece of 1.75 inch 090 wall, and it's locked both now to the this structure here and up here to the roof. This is not rollover protection by any means. It's basically just making the car a little bit more rigid so that, you know, when you put the torque to it, it minimizes the flex. So we're just tying these 2 points together like you would in a post car, but a little bit stronger because this is way stronger than the sheet metal that's in a post car. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that's what's going there, and the positioning of it. had to do with how it appears. I did want it to show up in the back window, but it looked worse sticking out in the front window. So when the door's closed, the profile in the front now is clear. So that bar is back, and it'll be blacked out. So it's not going to be very obvious, even as big as that is. Okay, so here's this piece out of the car, and I just want to show you, how I came about to make it. I didn't drag you through the process because, frankly, it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of mistakes, a lot of redos, trying to make sure that everything worked the way I wanted it to work. So it wasn't a straightforward process. It was kind of hard to film trying to figure this thing out. Bottom line is, took a piece of 090 wall tubing here, and I put a bunch of slight bends in it in order to create a radius that matches the curve of the window, but gapped about an inch away from the window. Then I made a couple of tabs. Originally this one was as narrow as the tube, but that put the bar too close, or actually in the front piece of glass, visible through the side glass. So I had to push it back a little bit, so I had to extend that tab. The bolt up point is here now, and so this tab is also 90 thousandths steel, and it extends down into the tube here, and I drilled out the sides here and plug welded it all along the sides here. But I also made this bracket so that I slid this one up in there, and then I tacked that one in place, and then I had this one down on the bottom mounted up, and then started to build out. This also slides into this tube here, this upper portion here. You can see right here, I've since put a cap on the end, but this slides all the way up inside the tube, and is also plug welded on the sides. And then there's a bottom half. These two halves are welded together. So once those two brackets were in place and this tube was secured on these two brackets, then the rest of it's pretty much just decorative. I just worked some tubing, cut it, slid it, bend it, and of course I'll body work this a little bit to smooth this all out. This is a little bit rustic here. But added all these pieces. This piece on the top side over here, by the way, is just to finish out the top of the door jamb, and this relief cut over here is for the molding that I'm going to be using to cover the pinch weld. It slides in behind here, so this has a pretty decent finished look to it when it's all finished. But anyway, yeah, this is a lot of. I had to remove this about 150 times. It was in and out of the car at least that many times, so it was a bit of a job, so I didn't really have time to film it. So anyway, on to the next thing. Alright, I just threw a little primer on there to keep the piece from rusting up while I'm handling it, but anyway, you can see what I've done here is basically this piece here finishes out this interior, goes over top of this molding. This molding will be the molding that covers the pinch weld, and it creates a little cap here and a little place also to start my inner upper door panel here. Alright, so you can see it's bolted up at the top there, and it's bolted in at the bottom here, and surprisingly I'm shaking the whole car right now when I'm tugging on it. Anyway, on to trying to work on this door panel. I've got the belt back in over here, trying to locate everything back to where it belongs, and see what I end up with. Okay, it's a little hard to get back far enough to see what I'm doing here, but what I've done is still have the Challenger inner door structure, what would be basically a back door area, and I saved the door cards from the Challenger. I was able to salvage this whole armrest area and the inset area. As you can see, it's just shy of where the window is, so I was able to cut that off evenly right there. I've got the belt coming up through here. Now I have to back engineer and kind of patch this all in and make this all work, but you know, this is just going to clip in. And what this helps also is this is the transition to the rear seat here, all of this area right here. So this is what ends up being the balustrade for the seat, and the seat base over here. So you can see the shape of it right there. So I don't have to worry about trying to fill in this area here with something funky. But you can see over here I had to scallop it out quite a bit for the door opening, and I've got a mock-up of all of the beads that I'm going to use that are from the Challenger, and this all has to be filled in, and this all has to be covered over, and quite a bit of thinking left to do, and my brain's sore right now, but I'm pretty happy that this just popped in like this after I got done trimming it all off. Anyway, on to the next thing. Alright, so I really got to sneak up on this one because there's a lot going on here, and what I'm basically going to start with is trying to mend this panel and this whole area in together. A lot of compound shapes, a lot going on. So I basically start with the basics. I've got a piece that I put on here. It's like a Z strip. You know, it's out about 3/4, up about 1/4, and then back over about 3/4 of an inch. And then I folded over a piece. It's got a 1-inch flange and a 1/4 inch flange, and I welded it through some holes that I put on the edge to that inner flange. And what that does is it puts a valley in here between the door panel and this rubber molding that covers the pinch weld. So that tucks into that groove, and it covers this pinch weld all the way up. Just like I cut a little access behind this stabilizer bar, this plate here. I went ahead and left an alleyway here for this to tuck in neatly. Anyway, now I've got to, this stays with the car. I've got to create a panel that's going to attach with a couple of screws here, which will create the front transition here. This can't be like I did on the door panel where it's squared off real nice and easy. This has to be rolled over in case you want to get in the back seat. You don't want to be catching yourself on edges. So all of this has to be soft curves rolling in and blending in with this panel back here. Quite the trick if I can pull it off. Okay, I'm going to try something a little different here. I need a little piece of metal that needs to have a radius all the way around to bend like this. Obviously you can't shrink, you know, you could probably make a piece straight, you know, and put a curve in it, but then you'd murder it, shrinking it, stretching it. So what this is a hammer form. I just got a piece of oak here, and I took a router and I rounded over the edge here after I cut that shape. I've got another shape over here, just some plywood just to hold it down, and then this piece here with the extra metal that I want to hammer over, and I'll put that on there, and I'll sandwich them together, put some screws through the whole mess. Of course, everything's oversized, so it's held very good. You don't want to start with the exact size piece. I probably need a piece maybe this big by the time I'm done. Anyway, we'll see if it works. Well, the first try didn't go so good. I had too much metal, so it tore in this inside corner here, but this one here seemed to be, I just minimized the amount of metal I needed to bend over the radius, and I achieved what I needed. I'm going to trim it down even further at this, you know, beyond this point, but that's all I wanted it to do. Go around a corner in with a radius on it. Alright, really trying to sneak up on this. You can see where I used this piece here that I had a little radius on to complete this little piece that transitions into the floor and kind of captures the top edge of this rubber molding. Now I'm just going to leave this area for a little bit. It's already reconciled over here where it needs to be, but I have this tower. I have to develop this little area here to encompass this little ring that holds the belt. There's a little piece that I cut out of the door panel that was previously located much higher, way up here. But anyway, it has a little door on it so that you can feed when you're installing the belts, you can feed this whole mechanism through it. and then you can pop the little door in. And I'm in the middle of making a sheet metal piece to capture that fixture so that we have that feature, and then it'll go up roughly in this area here. So I'm kind of sketching it out, getting the trim lines and different things to see how close I want to make it, sneaking up on it. Very tedious stuff, but you got to keep backing up and looking at it and test fitting stuff. Anyway, that's where we're at with this. Alright, so I decided to get a little fancy schmancy over here and basically round this corner over here. Try to eliminate some of the sharp edges with the sheet metal work. So that's just being held into place by that belt right now. You can see there's a little slot at the top where the belt rides over that ring. So now it's a matter of trying to figure out an attachment method, and then working this panel over here, and then down to meet this panel over here to fill out this area over here. Anyway, that's where that's at. Got started also on the other B pillar stabilizer over there. It's set in place and welded, tacked up. Just got to pull it out and do all the finish jazz, but my brain is kind of soaked into this thing right now, so this is what I'm going to hang on to for right now. Alright, just inchworming away here. I've got most of this filled in now, all the way up to here. It's going to be screwed into that flange. I've got a little safety edge bent over the face of this panel, so there's no raw sheet metal edges here where you would get in. Everything's rounded over. Once I take this out, I'll have to finish welding this up and beat that over the rest of the way. This rolls over into the side of this panel here. Contacts it here. This is the little doorway I was telling you about that allows you to take the device in and out. You can see it's running freely through the loop. I have another small panel that I have to work in over here before I start making my top piece and the piece that goes against the window. But that's utilizing the old or the Challenger door card and the stock location for the seat belt and everything, so that minimizes your work here. So minimizes my work here anyway. That took a long time, a lot of in and out of the car, but it's not looking too bad. Anyway, on to the next thing. Okay, so I still have to make the top of this piece. Got it out of the car now so I can get what I've already accomplished welded up without setting things on fire inside the car. It's a tricky business. I also did an experiment with some glue, hoping that it would work. The windshield glue. I glued a piece of steel to this interior plastic. This interior plastic is notorious, and nothing will stick to it. You can't even use masking tape to tape it off. It's just so oily, and that's made for a good reason. It's easy to clean and it's easy to keep clean that way. Nothing really sticks to the surface. So the glue that I used was windshield adhesive, and it looks like it stuck okay, but I was able to peel the piece of metal off, which it stuck to the metal great. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm searching for a glue that I could use to, glue this steel to this interior stuff, because right now I'm stuck with mechanical fasteners all throughout. So anyway, bottom line is that what happens is that the steel sealed up so well that the glue only dried on the perimeter and it stayed wet in the inside once the glue around the perimeter was dried. So I was able to pull it off relatively easy because the glue in the middle was still wet. Everything else was dry. So I guess the trick to this might be drilling a couple of holes so that it can breathe, and also it can ooze through and create like a plug. We'll see. Still experimenting with that. I don't really need to do that. It's just an extra insurance. I'd like to be able to glue these panels together a little bit more securely than just mechanically fasten them. Alright, so in order to finish out the top edge of this door panel over to the window, I have to have some way of attaching a piece to the top, but I have to do it with blind fasteners so you don't see it, because I want to cover it with vinyl, and I also want to create a bullnose or a rounded over edge up here, so it's a soft edge up here, so it doesn't just look like a flat shelf on top. And what I've done is on the back side here is I've created this U-channel that I've got riveted through the face. Okay, it's about 3/4 of an inch deep, a little 1/4 inch return lip, just so I don't lose the piece down into the cavity once I'm in the car with this panel on and I'm working with it. And then it's because this has rivets sticking through. This is 3/4 also, but the piece that fits in is only 5/8 wide. And what that is, again, is the stuff that's you know, the decking material I keep telling you about. I'll be using the plastic decking material, and so this will fit in here, and this right here will give me something to attach my panel to. So in other words, I'll put the sheet metal over top of this and rivet the sheet metal right to it, and then I'll attach my shaped edge over here out in front, so that I'll be able to take and through the bottom side here, I have already drilled the holes, just be able to take some Tech screws and screw it up in the bottom side or the back side, and that way once this top piece is made and covered, I won't have any screws going through the face of it, and also the edge that rolls over will hide these front rivets that secure this track on the back side. I also have a little piece way out front here to try and catch, because this is all going to be one piece over here, and that front edge has to be captured up front too. So anyway, that's what I'm doing with trying to create a blind assembly right here. All right, with the panel upside down, you can see how this works out. I've got the cap built now, and you can see I have it riveted through the top side right here into this piece of material, this plastic decking material that I milled down to fit into this channel here. And then on the bottom side, you see I have screw holes here, one here, and one here. I just took one of the screws out. I figured, well, before I take all the screws out, here's one also over here, another small channel way at the front, and that makes the whole thing a little bit rigid. Anyway, also I have the window whisker mocked up in the sense that it's riveted over top of, I have a piece of vinyl underneath of it, both on the top side and on the front side, so that it simulates the distance that would pack it out. And it's kind of hard to see, but I still have a little trim in there to do. I gave up the idea of the bull nose on here because there's just too many things going on. There's this line here that has to go uphill and has to come back downhill to here, then back uphill to a very small profile here, not to interfere with the belt. There's a lot going on there, and so I just decided to try and simplify a little bit of it, but that's basically the general shape of it. And so I'm going to put it back in the car one more time, and then all of this has to be taken off. It all has to be body worked and primed, and then this top piece has to be covered with vinyl. And I'll show you that when it's I'll show you it back in the car, at least before I take it to do all that stuff. I usually like to end the videos with at least one project finished up, but I started on 3 different projects this week, so I didn't get finished with any of them. Still waiting on the rear tires. Apparently they're not too common, and they're still in transit to the tire shop. So that project went on hold, and then I got involved with making my other support bar for this side over here, and then I decided to get going on this door panel. And so the door panel is to the point where, like I said, I'm gonna have to take it apart and body work all of it, and cover the top of vinyl. I have a few little tweaks here and there that I have to do. It's running down a little bit downhill towards the window in this direction. I want to tilt it up a little bit, and I got to make an adjustment there. And other than that, that was that was a little bit of a job right there, I can tell you that much. It was a couple of days just to get to this point, but and I knew it would be tough because just because of getting in and out of this back seat area, even though there's no seat over on this side. So I'm gonna have to take the driver's seat back out and do the other side. So I'll leave it there for this week, and I appreciate everybody for watching. I'll see you on the next one.